Ara Babos, executive chef, presents the Romanian Queen Cooks, a new television show in Corpus Christi, Texas. Chef Ara prepares European, Eastern European, and American dishes, including appetizers, entrees, salads, and desserts. Chef Ara at Ara's Seafood and Steaks prepares pierogies, Romanian cabbage rolls, paprikash, roasted duckling, Viennese schnitzel, pecan-crusted drum, crab cakes, ribeye steaks, and more. All can be enjoyed at her farm-to-table restaurant. She is known for coaxing the very best flavor with her culinary expertise. Chef Ara lived in Romania, emigrated to Canada with her mother, Dr. Adriana Popmoody, MD, and has owned Ara's Seafood and Steaks restaurant for over 5 years. Learn how to cook with Chef Ara, the Romanian Queen Cooks, every first Saturday at 11:30 a.m. on KZTV 10. Welcome to the Romanian Queen Cooks.
Good morning. Welcome to the Romanian Queen Cooks. Today's dish is Beef Braciola. It is an Italian dish which is a favorite with Italian patrons and American patrons at my restaurants, Ara's Seafood and Steaks. I decided to make this dish in honor of Mother's Day, as it was a favorite dish for my own mother. This dish originates, like I said, in Italy, but I picked up this dish in Calabria, in Italy, which is almost at the end of the boot, right before Sicily. And I went to visit a family, and this is what they made in La Mezzia Terme. So maybe this may not be the original recipe of the beef braciola, but this is my recipe of the beef braciola. So to start it, we have to pound out the meat. I prefer to use tenderloin, ribeye, inside round or outside round. It's up to your preference. Whatever beef you choose, it's good. You have to pound it about 1/4 of an inch thick. Now, to show you a little trick, because when we all cook at home, our cutting boards, they tend to move on our granite, on our tabletops. And to avoid that from moving, I have wetted a towel. And you're gonna put this towel on the bottom. And then you will put the cutting board on top. And you see, has no more movement. So you will take your steak. This one is a ribeye steak, which I use at the restaurant. And if it has any kind of meat or fat on the side, just rip it off, it's okay. And then you take your mallet. I know it's a small one, but it's for home. And you start from the center of your beef, because you want to stretch the beef as much as possible. And you have to make it again of 1/4 of an inch thick. So when you start pounding, you start in the middle, and you kind of move towards the side. And you have to pay attention to the edges. Also flip it if you need to flip it. And continue pounding. When you're happy with the consistency like I am, and you can see it's pretty thin. If it has a little hole inside, don't worry about it, because we will roll it so the hole will not be seen and no ingredients is going to fall out. And now, since you've seen how it's pounded out, we will go to the stuffing. And hello, I am back with our fabulous ingredients for our fabulous stuffing for the beef braciola. And again, I do have the wet towel, because if you're on granite or whatever you're working on, you do not want your bowl to move. And again, it's super solid. So the first ingredient is, of course, breadcrumbs. And don't worry about this one if we make more than the involtini or the beef braciola calls for, because this mix, you can bag it up in a Ziploc bag and it lasts in your fridge for anywhere from 3, 4, 6 months, even up to a year, if you keep it nice and tightly closed. So here are the Italian breadcrumbs. So I have in here about 1.5 cups. Don't ask me to measure it for you because I really cannot measure. And here I have 3 tablespoons of parsley that's already chopped, and it's curly parsley. You can use Italian parsley just as well. It really does not matter because ultimately parsley is parsley. Here I have some sun-dried tomatoes, and I like to keep them sliced. You can also chop them and make them finer. It's up to you because ultimately it is all about texture. So I throw in here about 3 sun-dried tomatoes. Here we have Parmesan cheese. I have about half a cup in here, so I'm going to use half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Garlic, because of course, what kind of Italian cooking is there if you don't have garlic? And I have about 3 tablespoons of garlic. Well, I'm going to leave the marinara sauce at the end because that one is when you actually cook it. And to go on to the rest of our herbs, I have here a bowl, as you can see, with curly parsley, basil, and rosemary. So we're going to take my cutting board and pop it on this fabulous towel, again for anti-movement. And I'm taking the rosemary. And the easy way to clean the rosemary is to actually go against the leaves, like against the stem, not the leaves. And you don't need much. You literally need about a tablespoon of chopped rosemary. And the way I like to cut, so you can actually be able to maneuver the knife in which way you want it to go, because these knives are quite sharp. The best way to do it is to put your knife on the board and then direct the knife with your fingers. So granted, you are directing from your wrist, but you're holding the knife stable with your fingers, so this way the knife will not move on you and you have no chance of being cut. And this also allows you to chop the herbs as fine or as rough as you want them. As you can see, this is my chopped rosemary, and it goes into this mix. And I also have basil, which is preferably fresh basil, but if you don't have fresh basil, dried basil is just as fine. And I have about 3 large leaves. And you do the same thing. I like to bunch them up like this because it makes it easier to cut. And I go in here and I throw my knife in the middle, as I like to cut my large leaves in half. And then you slice. And then again, to dice it as fine as you want to, you're literally chopping your your basil. And for me, this is sufficiently cut or chopped, and into this mix it goes. Now I just have the olive oil, and let me bring the olive oil and I'll be right back.
Dentures? Missing teeth? Think implants are too expensive? Mini dental implants are for you.
Bay Area Denture and Dental Center's mini implants snap your dentures in place. No invasive surgery, little or no recovery period, half the cost of old, large implants. Dentures starting at just $175 per arch. Implant crowns, fixed implant bridges. In-house, no interest financing available.
Mini dental implants will change your life.
Call 857-6200 or 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH. Locally grown vegetables straight from the vine. Tender grass-fed beef from local Texas ranches, grilled to perfection. Seafood swimming in the Gulf this morning, expertly seasoned and prepared. Ara's Seafood and Steaks, Corpus Christi's only farm-to-table restaurant. The freshest local fare, served with style, for dinner and Sunday brunch.
Ara's, for foodies who expect the best.
Ara's Seafood and Steaks, 6917 South Staples.
Hey guys, so I got my olive oil, and we are going to take this olive oil and we are going to add to our ingredients. And unfortunately I cannot say half a cup, 1 cup, because we're making this in a very small portions compared to how I make them at the restaurant. So now You can use a spatula to mix, and you can also use your hand to mix. But we are going to start with the spatula for now, just to get all the ingredients well mixed together and to see if you need any more oil, because the secret to this recipe to have the mixture really nice and stick together is actually the oil. And you can see it's crumbly, but if you start like that, it does not stick together. So you will add a little bit more olive oil. So I would say right now I have about 1.5 cups of olive oil inside. And if you excuse me, but I cannot mix with a spatula too well. So I'm going to use my hands, because that can actually give you a better taste of how the texture is, and if you actually need to add more oil or even more breadcrumbs, if in case you add too much oil. Now, as far as these ingredients go, you can also use the mozzarella di bufala, which is the fresh mozzarella. Sometimes it's made with buffalo milk, which is a cow too, but it's a black cow. And now for the final taste, you have to actually taste it. It's good, but I'm going to cut some more basil, because it does miss that basil. And don't worry about your hand. And you chop the basil a little bit better, because you want all the flavor of the basil to actually go inside your dish. And again, you mix. And another tasting. Wonderful. But the last minute, you have to throw in the peppercorn. And here I am with my peppercorn, because this Romanian queen actually forgets things as well. I am a normal woman, and here we are. This particular pepper I picked up from TJ Maxx. You are free to buy your peppercorn from wherever you want to. And then of course you invert it and you throw it inside in your dish. I would say about 1 tablespoon or half a teaspoon, however you really want to go about it. And now we are going to mix it again with our sturdy spatula, because I don't want to have to wash my hands again. And this is how you do. And then you mix your peppercorn quite well into the dish. And feel free to, flavorful, smell it. And now, when it's thoroughly mixed together, we are going to stuff our beef braciola. So I have the mix over here. I'm taking the cutting board, again, placed on the wet towel because we don't want it to move. And here is the beef. And then, of course, when you place it this way, I like to go on this way because it's easier to actually wrap. And you throw in, I would say, a couple of tablespoons to start with. You see how wide your meat is. And in case you need to add more stuffing, then of course you add more stuffing. And I want to catch a little bit more of the sun-dried tomatoes. And here you are, you arrange your beef because you want to have a nice even roll. So you pick up your beef from the ends. It's kind of like wrapping my cabbage rolls, but a little bit different. And you do tuck the edges of the meat inside, and then you just roll like so until it's all rolled and it looks like a nice thick cigar. And now for the piece de la resistance, it is bacon. As you can see right here, it's just slabs of bacon, because life is much better with bacon. So what I like to do, I like to take the strip of bacon like so, And then I wrap it on the end, and then the other end goes evenly underneath. So this is one way, and you're securing it at both ends because you don't want the filling to come out. And then you're taking your other slice of bacon, which is like so, and you're starting at the end, and you are wrapping your bacon. You're wrapping the bacon across the beef braciola. So where your end stays, you are going to take a toothpick and you are going to stab the bacon into the beef braciola. Now you can also do it by stuffing the end of the bacon inside the already rolled bacon, but I don't like that because sometimes when the meat cooks with all the liquid and everything, the braciola tends to fall apart, and you want it to stay snugly and secured while they are cooking. And now I'm going to show you how to put it into the dish.
Locally grown vegetables straight from the vine. Tender grass-fed beef from local Texas ranches, grilled to perfection. Seafood swimming in the Gulf this morning, expertly seasoned and prepared. Ara's Seafood and Steaks, Corpus Christi's only farm-to-table restaurant. The freshest local fare, served with style, for dinner and Sunday brunch.
Ara's, for foodies who expect the best.
Ara's Seafood and Steaks, 6917 South Staples.
At Bay Area Denture and Dental Center, we're creating beautiful and life-changing smiles every day.
Top quality custom-made dentures for just $175 per arch. Bay Area Denture and Dental Center is Corpus Christi's premier mini implant provider. Partials, single tooth implants, root canals and crowns, wisdom tooth extractions, veneers, and more. In-house, no-interest financing available.
Change your smile, change your life.
Call 857-6200 or 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
And now, lovelies, these are the rolled beef braciola, and this is how they look. They're very nicely bundled up in bacon, and they will not break off when they're cooking. And now we are going to put them into the cooking pan. And this is my cooking pan. And of course I have my trusty extra virgin olive oil again, because that's what I prefer to cook with. And we're not going to put a lot of oil, just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. And then we'll take the oil and we'll rotate it in the pan, because you want some of the oil to go on the walls of your pan as well, to prevent your food from actually sticking. And now I'm going to take the mix of the beef braciola, because I like it to be very flavorful, and I'm going to cover the bottom of the pan. Now this is something that you don't need to do, because the family from La Mezzia Terme most certainly did not do that. But I find that it adds more flavor to the dish, especially if you do not have already a jar of marinara or prepared marinara at home. Sometimes you have to use the strained tomatoes, and this way it ensures that you always have the proper flavor. And now I have some marinara sauce that I have at the restaurant, and I'm going to cover a bit of the bottom of the dish with my marinara. And you don't really have to put a lot of it in. And this is the same marinara sauce that I learned from the family in La Mezzia Terme in Calabria. Because all of Italy, they all have all different kind of marinara. You can go from the north to the east to the west, and even down to the south, and even Sicily, the sauce is completely different. And now I like to use Pomi. This is my favorite brand of the strained tomatoes. And I like it because it does come from Italy, and it's made with really, really, really a lot of goodness. So I take this one, of course I shake it first, and then I like to cover the bottom. With the tomato sauce. Then I take my braciola, right so. And I only made 3 pieces because they're literally for 3 people. And I pop them in. Then I take them back over here so you can see them. And I put them back on my cutting board, and you wipe your hands because the bacon is greasy. And then you take your remaining mix, and the reason I like it again is because it's a lot more flavorful. And you throw your remaining mix of the stuffing right on your braciola. You arrange it nicely around. And you take the rest of your strained tomatoes and you cover it very nicely on the top. Now what you do, I'm going to take a little break so I can go get myself a glass of water, because you are going to cover with a little bit of water to make sure that your braciola actually cooks by the steam inside. So I'll be right back. And as you can see, I am back with my strained tomatoes, and I added water and I'm shaking it because I want to get all the goodness of the tomatoes out from the bottle. And now I'm going to open it and place it on the pan like so. Now again, I'm rotating, and I'm going to use the spatula because I want some of this sauce to also go actually inside the dish as we cook it, because again, I want it to be very well cooked. And as you can see, most of the sugo or the sauce went inside. And now I have some more chopped up rosemary and basil that I chopped earlier, and we are going to place it on the top because we want that extra cooking flavor, especially again if you do not have enough marinara to add onto the dish. And then of course I press it lightly with my fingers. And another thing I wanted to tell you, when I filled the strained tomatoes with the water, some sauce jumped on my apron. And this is why it's always a good thing to actually have aprons in your kitchen when you cook, to avoid staining your beautiful clothes. And now we are going to cover this pot up, and we are going to make our way to the oven to put it in. We are going to cook it at 350 for 3 to 4 hours. Again, after about an hour and a half, feel free to remove the pan, add more water or extra strained tomatoes with the water, and then pop it back into the oven for it to cook. You will try at the end of 4 hours, you are going to take it out of the oven, and you're going to take a fork, and you're going to try to dip your fork into the braciola. If the fork goes on easily, your meat is cooked. If it's a little bit harder and you want that soft and tenderness, you are going to put it back into the oven to cook a little bit more. So I would take it out every half hour and check for the tenderness. Because the thickness of the meat actually affects how fast your dish cooks. Because as we roll it, the thickness of the meat increases. And this is one way for you to be able to try it out. When I was in La Mezia Terme, they told me that if I can cut my braciola with a fork, my braciola is done. So that should be the ultimate test of the food. Now if you follow me, we are going to go to the oven and we're going to pop it right in. And here we go. We are on our way to the oven. Here's the beautiful beef braciola. We are going to put it into the oven at a temperature of 350 degrees. And it's going to cook for approximately 4 hours or more. At 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, you're going to take your dish out and you're going to check to see how much liquid there is inside. If you need to add more water, cooking water or marinara mixed with water, please do so. And then you're going to put it back in the oven, and in about 4 hours you're going to take it out. And again, you're going to check for doneness with a fork. So you're going to throw the fork inside. If the fork slides easily, that means your beef is pretty much done. The cooking time, again, it goes back to how thick your meat is. So if your meat is thicker, of course you're going to have to cook it longer. So then if that's the case, pop it back in there, for another half an hour to 45 minutes. You take it out and you check it with the fork. And the family from Lamezia Terme in Calabria, they told me that the ultimate test for the beef braciola is if you stick your fork in and it slides easily in, that means the beef braciola is done. So I hope you will enjoy, and we will wait. I have another pan already cooked, and I will take it out and show you how the finished product looks. And as I said, we have cooked it for exactly almost 5 hours because my beef was a little bit thicker than it normally is. And here you have the final product. What I'm going to do, what I love to do, is I love to throw in some Parmesan cheese on top of it because it gives you that extra scrumptious flavor. And I just like to press it on top. And then I like to cover it for a little bit longer with the lid to allow for the Parmesan cheese to actually blend into the passata, because that's what you want. You want the saltiness and the milkiness of the cheese to blend in with the acidity of the tomatoes. And now, my lovelies, because I have done some dental work, unfortunately I will not be able to chew this dish and say exactly how delicious it actually is. But you are more than welcome to come to the restaurant on Wednesday and Thursday or Friday or any day of the week and try it and enjoy it there. And as the Italians say, it's delicioso and mangia bene, which is eat good. Now, the reason that I have chosen this recipe was because it was my mother's favorite recipe, and also the lady that taught it to me was also a mother. And I enjoyed my trip to the province of Catanzaro, which is where Calabria is, on the borders on the Mediterranean Sea, and also it is a lush Mediterranean town. And Lamezia Terme is known very famously for their churches and their cathedrals, in their architecture, they're absolutely beautiful. Calabria is on the bottom of the boot of Italy, and the next part of Italy after Calabria is Sicily. But we're not going to visit Sicily right now. I will make another dish for Sicily at another time. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Romanian Queen Cooks, and please do not forget to serve the beef braciola for Mother's Day this year, or for any other time you want to have an Italian specialty. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you at our Seafood and Steaks.
Locally grown vegetables straight from the vine. Tender grass-fed beef from local Texas ranches, grilled to perfection. Seafood swimming in the Gulf this morning, expertly seasoned and prepared. Ara's Seafood and Steaks, Corpus Christi's only farm-to-table restaurant. The freshest local fare, served with style, for dinner and Sunday brunch.
Ara's, for foodies who expect the best.
Ara's Seafood and Steaks, 6917 South Staples.